me tell you something. You stupid little runt. I own you. You're my bitch. So don't walk around here thinking you have free will, because you don't. I can crush you anytime I want.
Do you ever feel like you're being lied to? Telling Canadians over and over on repeat that you've never had it so good is backfiring big time on Mark Carney. Spending $100,000 on fancy butter and creme brulee every time you jump onto a private jet is not sitting so well for the majority of Canadians. Who would have thought? Then hearing Mark Carney is yelling and talking down on his caucus, and they don't feel safe speaking up or giving ideas to Mark Carney because he is not listening. That is definitely not helping as well. We are seeing signs that this shiny brand new economic genius polling numbers are starting to crumble because the guy that promised the very best deal with Donald Trump a year ago, that's what he campaigned at least, has done absolutely nothing on the US-Canada file. And Canadians are noticing. Even if the Liberals on a daily basis says we've never had it so good in Canada, what are you complaining about? 12 million Canadians received the food and essential benefit. All we did was rename the HST credit rebate. But take your little bit of pocket change and go. Don't trust your eyes and ears. But we all know those are the things that do not lie. In today's report, I got brand new polling data. It doesn't look so hot for our economic genius. I have mainstream media trying its hardest to paint Pierre Poilievre as the sole reason why we have a collapsing economy right now. And mainstream media's new strategy is to get so-called conservatives to attack and go after Pierre Poilievre, which just exposes the mainstream media's plan. I have a lot more for you today. Let's get into this report. Here we have Mark Carney explain what a technical recession is. This is quite important because after this, I'm going to show you something that's going to blow your mind.
And you talk about the possibility of what you call a technical recession. Now, again, to people watching this program who don't know what a technical recession is or might feel like, it may not sound too bad, a technical recession. It's only a technical recession. It's not a real one. What would it feel like?
Well, look, the technical definition of a technical recession is just that. It's 2 quarters of flat or negative growth.
There you have it, Canada. It came straight from the economic genius himself. Here's Canada's economy over the last year. Negative, positive, negative, negative. So the 2 negatives is the definition that Mark Carney just gave us. And now we have a RBC chief economist explain to us, well, we're going to see what she explains, but at this point, the Canadian economy could fall directly down the stairs, and bank economists would call it an unplanned gravitational downward adjustment.
I want to talk to you about this technical recession, really slim margins of that, and get your assessment on the state of the economy right now, given that reality.
This is not a recession. I don't even know where this idea of technical recession came from, because 2 quarters of negative GDP is not even a technical recession. It's a precondition.
What? Mark Carney, Canada's Prime Minister, straight up said 2 quarters, negative quarters, is a technical recession. So this person, Frances Donald, needs to lose her job if she's a chief economist. Imagine being a chief economist and not know what a technical recession is. I mean, it's a consensus across the board.
Economists define a recession, FISA, as 2 consecutive quarters, so 6-month period of time of negative economic growth. And these new numbers from Statistics Canada released this morning show that's where we are right now.
So I'm not sure what she's talking about, but let's see this again.
This is not a recession. I don't even know where this idea of technical recession came from because 2 quarters of negative GDP is not even a technical recession. It's a precondition. And yet, Rosemary, I'm not sure that that's even the conversation we should be having. What sort of aggravates economists right now in Canada about this is not the nitpicking over the definition of a recession. It's that we're having a discussion about the wrong diagnosis. We're talking about the patient having a headache when they have a broken arm that needs to be addressed. The problem.
Okay, so there you have it, Canada. We're not in a recession. We went from a headache, which is what everybody's saying it is, to a broken arm, meaning a broken economy with a train that has fully gone off the cliff and it went boom. We're not in a recession. We're in a depression.
Facing Canada right now are not that growth is contracting. The problems facing Canada is an ongoing affordability crisis from everything from food to housing. Business investment is very weak. Youth unemployment is high. And while Canadians may feel like the word recession encompasses all those things and validates those concerns, well, again, it's the wrong diagnosis. So it's neither accurate nor helpful. What we have to do now is say, let's put aside this technical concept of GDP and focus on where are we heading next. Where we're heading next is better than where we've been in the last 6 months. But it's a long way until the policies we've seen from our federal government start to really impact growth and make Canadians feel like we're coming out of darker times.
Okay, well, this is why we wanted you on, because you're so good at explaining things and telling us what you honestly think is happening. I want to ask about the jobs from Friday, 88,000 jobs, better than expected. I think it sort of picked up most of the gains from the losses earlier in the year. So if we're looking to diagnose things, what does that tell you about where the economy's headed?
Well, no economist worth their salt is going to take one employment report and say, this tells us where we are in the Canadian labor market. We're still down about 24,000 jobs since the start of the year. And there's a lot of things weighing on Canada, from the trade issue to the fact that we don't really have a real engine of growth as of yet. But the unemployment rate is declining relative to where it was last year. Youth unemployment is falling. Most provinces across the country are doing better. So there's green shoots of improvement. And we actually believe we'll see more improvement in the labor market as to come. And yet there's a big asterisk on this, because while we might be saying we're not creating the same amount of jobs we were in the past several years, that's okay. We don't need the same amount of jobs in Canada that we did even last year, but particularly in 2022 to 2024. Back then, we had a population that was growing so substantially, we had to create 60 to 70,000 jobs just to keep the people who wanted jobs employed. But Rosemary, as you know, our population is shrinking, and we have 25,000 Canadians that are retiring every single month. We don't have to create the same amount of jobs. And our estimates is actually that Canada could lose up to 10,000 jobs per month, and the unemployment rate would stay the same. So the yardstick that...
Oh my goodness. You know what? Imagine this was a doctor and she's treating you for your illness. I would be like, that's why I always tell people, get a second opinion, because there's people here. This is a chief economist. By the way, there's 1.5 million people unemployed in Canada. We don't need to create more jobs. We could just not create any jobs because there's 25,000 retirements. You know how many years it would take for all the retirements to gobble up the 1.5 million people currently looking for work? Is this person okay? Clearly, she's not okay. And I just love how Rosemary Barnes is like, that's why we have you on, because you really are really good at explaining things. Honestly, you could have brought a 5-year-old and would have done way better at explaining things than this, because at least a 5-year-old, you'd be like, they're 5. Of course they don't know what they're talking about. But this is a chief economist. A chief economist. I can't show you any more of this because it's just going to cause you some brain damage. I have a career change suggestion for Frances Donald. She needs to become a weatherman, because a weatherman could say it's going to rain, it'll be windy, it could be sunny. There's a 60% probability of something happening tomorrow. They get paid to be wrong. She needs to go directly to become a weather person, because at least she would be honest on a weather station. Oh, it gets better, Canada. Now we have Ryan Turnbull. He must be like, he needs to be a weatherman as well. He definitely needs to be a weatherman. But check this out.
So I take your point about the recession, and we talked to Frances Donald in the first hour, and she largely agrees with you, and certainly other economists do too. But as you said, the economy is soft, it's weak. And that's partly because of all these different changes that are happening. How long should Canadians expect for it to take, for some of these big changes to take hold?
Well, I mean, we've signed 20 new trade and security agreements in about a year, which is significant. We see non-U.S. trade up 36% in the spring economic update. We've seen consumer spending rising at 1.5%, wages outpacing inflation for every month that this government has been in office. We have foreign direct investment at the highest level in the last fiscal year. And we have offered significant tax deductions and measures to Canadians while I think looking to ensure fiscal discipline at a time of unprecedented change and rupture to the global trading system. So
So what he just described is you should be feeling rich right now. When you go to the grocery store, you could buy any piece of steak that you like. You could buy all those creme brulees like Mark Carney on his private jet. You're going to be able to get some of that Normandy butter because they're doing everything right now. Your wage is moving way faster than inflation. You're also getting tons of tax credits. I mean, the economy is on fire based on Turnbull's comments.
Fiscal discipline is really, found in the cost savings exercise that we did with $60 billion in savings over 5 years. At the same
Wow, man, I cannot believe this guy. We're about to put $1 trillion on the national credit card in the next 5 years. So they save $60 billion to spend another trillion.
That it's challenging times for sure. And it's crisis after crisis after crisis that have been sort of layered on beyond the government's control. Of course, we don't control, oil prices or those shocks.
And I take your point on all those statistics that you said, but to your point, and I think it's the right one, Canadians don't feel those things, right? They still are struggling at the grocery store, and you can talk about the benefit. The gas tax pause that was put in place was largely eaten up by the fact that oil still kept going higher and higher. So is there anything else that the government plans to do in the short term?
Don't you find it interesting that he says everything is going right now? We're doing everything right. And then the reality sets in where he tells us we have a rupture. The global economy is completely destroyed. I don't know about you, but these people are selling us a bunch of snake sauce, okay? And everybody's supposed to buy this kind of nonsense. It's pretty bad out there, Canada. The gaslighting is off the charts. They love to cherry pick the data, but the real data, let's take a look at the real data. And then I got a meme for you because it's out of control.
We got to stick to the facts here, Mr. Speaker. Canada's economy is growing. In fact, Canada has surpassed the U.S. when it comes to having a higher employment rate. The Canadian economy, because Canadians are working hard, added 88,000 jobs to the economy in the last month, Mr. Speaker. We have a plan, and we're working hard to make sure Canadians are getting ahead.
Let me tell you something, you stupid little runt. I own you. You're my bitch. So don't walk around here thinking you have free will, because you don't. I can crush you anytime I want.
Doesn't it feel like that's what they're doing? They're crushing us anytime they want. And then they tell us we've never had it so freaking good. The data is in. Canadians, on average, the Canadian family makes $166,790 in income and pay an estimated $72,500. Canadian families need to work half a year in order to pay their taxes. You work for half the year, then our genius government decides to send $24 billion plus to the other side of the world to fight a war that you are not fighting here in Canada. Then they pretend that they could alter the climate if you paid just a little bit more in taxes, then we could save the entire planet from burning. And we also work half the year for the government so they could do gender studies and pay for no poop signs in Ghana and pay for gender rights in Vietnam. Don't you just love working half the year for this genius government that's telling you that you've never had it so good? We have the most robust, bustling economy on the planet. Then you get Francis Donald telling us we're not in a recession. It's just a cold. Actually, it's a broken elbow. That's what you're feeling right now. We got more receipts from one flight from Mark Carney on his private jet going to someplace nice while we're stuck here living in Canada. Lasagna with beef, 2,925 euros. Which turns into $5,000 for a little bit of lasagna. Let's look at some of this beautiful salmon. It costs 3,825 euros, so $6,000 here. And some chocolate mousse. Oh, don't you love chocolate mousse? 1,350, so $2,000 for some chocolate mousse. While Mark Carney tells Canadians, you need to sacrifice more because our economy is failing. Absolutely priceless. We can't have an episode without our most famous, useless, absolutely useless MP, Wayne Long, explain to us that our economy is on fire right now.
What a great day it is to be Canadian. When you have Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen on the Hill today, you, sir, brought this country together. But I want to say this to the Conservatives. They love numbers. I know they love numbers, so here's a number for them. 88,000. The Canadian economy created 88,000 jobs in May. That is an amazing accomplishment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we're going to focus on building a Canada strong. Time for them to get on board. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to that member for the question. Mr. Speaker, actually, last Friday in Halifax, I had the honour to announce the one-time top-up payment of the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit that will pay 50% of an annual GST Groceries and Essentials benefit return. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we're going to build a strong economy. I know that party loves the glass half empty, but you know what, Mr. Speaker, on this side, the glass is half full. Our Prime Minister is building a strong economy for all Canadians. We're going to continue to invest in Canada and build Canada strong. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It's half full, meaning he's admitting that everything is going down the drain. Wayne Long says you should be thrilled with your essential benefit. Now you can afford all the necessities of life. This Liberal government's taking care of you. We just heard from one of the recipients of the food and essential benefit. She says, "Thank you very much, Wayne Long. Now I could afford groceries for 2 weeks. And then after that, my family's gonna starve."
When you heard that this benefit was happening, and when you saw it show up in your bank account, what did that mean for you?
Well, it'll come in handy. I mean, like I said, it's like I could probably get a week or two of groceries out of that for my family of 6. To me, it just feels like putting a Band-Aid on a broken arm, because great, I'll get a week or two out of groceries. And yes, that will help for that short period of time. But what about for the remainder of the year when we still need to eat?
Yeah. You are also going to...
It's going to help for a week, maybe 2. But the rest of the year, we're going to be foraging for mushrooms and little frogs in the forest. Thank you so much, Wayne Long, and thank you, Mark Carney. It's unbelievable the amount of propaganda coming out of CBC now that we are in a recession. They absolutely refuse to say yes. We are in one.
Well, there were a whole lot of competing political messages this week on the true state of the Canadian economy, with the opposition Conservatives seeking to redefine a technical recession as a full-blown recession. And
what's the difference? It's the same thing. Our economy is failing. 3 out of 4 quarters are negative. What are we trying to dress this up? It's not a technical... You know what? Forget the whole recession thing. This is a depression because for the last 10 years... our standard of living has decreased. How many of you think that you're better off today than just a year ago? Or how many of you think you're better off than 10 years ago? Everybody's working harder. We're all falling behind. The new plan for these liberals is to get fake conservatives to come onto mainstream media and explain everything, all of our problems are Pierre Poilievre's fault. It's because of him we're suffering a recession right now, not the majority liberal government that has all the power, and they've been in power for 11 straight years. It's not their fault. It's Pierre Poilievre that has zero power. He's just pointing out the flaws within our government. It's his fault we are suffering right now.
I do think you have to lay some, plant some seeds. But I also largely agree with Scott that the seeds they're planting are the wrong ones in terms of tone. I think you want to be pointing this stuff out, but with like sadness and regret, with a solemn tone, and put the focus on delivering results. Where I think that's where the Carney government is going to be. To Tom's point, more vulnerable over time. If they don't actually get the resource projects done, those sorts of things, I think that's a better vector of attack, because I think the one that they're on right now looks like Poilievre is applying to be a-hole in chief. And I just don't think that's the way to get more popular with the public. It doesn't improve your favorabilities to look like a jerk all the time. And I think he's at risk of doing that.
How many dollars is he getting? Because this guy, he represented Caroline Elliott as a conservative leader in BC. He also represented Doug Ford. So this guy is bashing Pierre Poilievre and saying that he's an a-hole? I got some brand new polling data. If you made it this far in the video, you're in luck, because Mark Carney's popularity is in free fall. And it's because of things like this. He tells us that he's building the strongest economy in the G7. And then when he's asked about a recession, and he's the economic genius, the guy to save Canada, he looks at the camera and goes, I'm not going to answer that one. I'm gone. And Canadians look at Mark Carney and say, how could you do that to us? We voted for you.
We will build a new Canadian economy, the strongest economy in the G7. We will build Canada strong.
Prime Minister, can you comment on the claims about a recession?
I think
and the economy, sir?
And all the people that voted for Mark Carney, they all saw this video and they were furious. Before I show you Mark Carney's polling data, I want to show you this. Canada entered a technical recession, but apparently in the middle of a hiring boom. Statistics Canada labor force surveys shows a sharp climb in employment in May. In fact, it marks the third most jobs added to employment outside of the pandemic recovery. That doesn't jive well with the recession and weak job vacancy data points, does it? There's a good reason for that. Most gains are taxpayer funded and temporary. Read that again. This is their 88,000 jobs that they created. They're taxpayer funded jobs, and they're all going to go away. Let's take a look at some of these numbers. So it says here, the private sector added 56,000 jobs, while the public sector added 20,000 jobs. Both grew at roughly the same pace, and both have small catches. And get this, the biggest hidden driver of employment gains is likely StatsCan itself. Can you believe it? Remember that census that everybody ripped up and said, I'm not going to fill up this census. They actually hired 32,000 temporary workers for the census from March to July 2026. The door-to-door follow-ups start in June. It's fair to say a good chunk of those public sector jobs added in May are temporary. That means a big pullback in public sector employees is coming in August and September. At least the private sector gained, right? Those appear to be mostly temporary too. The biggest gains are in construction, where investment was driven by public spending. This includes civil infrastructure like public transit, power, and data centers. These These are public projects funded by taxpayers and debt. However, they're subcontracted to private firms and thus appear to be private employment. So they're basically government jobs as well. Information, culture, and recreation had similar setups. These aren't traditional public work, but heavily subsidized event like FIFA World Cup kickoff in June. The event provides big boost to employment and the economy, but the gains are temporary. So unadjusted temporary employment climbed 287,400 to 2.33 million jobs in May, almost triple the permanent gains. And I really like this last paragraph. None of this should downplay the importance of temporary jobs or stimulus. Most job seekers would agree that temporary jobs is better than no job. Public stimulus can also kickstart an economy in a rut. However, when either of these segments is the only driver of growth, the economy isn't booming. It's on life support. Can you believe it? The Liberals are spending our own money, our tax dollars, and driving up our debt. That's why we went from a $62 or $65 billion deficit this year, and the PBO just came out. We're now at $72 billion, and I bet you we're going to be above the $72 billion because they're injecting money into the economy so that it doesn't look like we're in a recession right now. All the jobs are created by the government, and they're using subcontractors in order to hide where the money's coming from. And then they stand in the House of Commons and say we have the strongest economy in the G7. This is what's happening in Canada right now. You know what they say? The trend is your friend. Which party would you vote for in the next election? The Liberals, after Mark Carney's Davos speech, was straight up like a rocket ship. But since that speech, look at the decline. But the big story here is the NDP is waking up. Liberal voters are looking at Mark Carney and they're seeing this guy and saying, I made a big mistake voting for him. I'm going back to the NDP, and this is great for the Conservatives. No wonder they're starting to attack Pierre Poilievre. This is the most revealing data set of them all. Do you approve or disapprove of the job Mark Carney's doing as Prime Minister of Canada? Wow, I mean, he's all the way down, and look at the disapproval. It's heading straight up. That's it for today's report. I cannot believe the chief economist that they brought on trying to explain to us that we're not in a recession right now. But I did like her explanation that people are calling it the common cold when it's actually a broken bone. That is actually probably a better analysis of where we're at. I am just so excited that Canadians are waking up to the fact that Mark Carney sold us that he was an economic genius. He's going to get the best deal with the United States, and he's gotten us absolutely nothing. And now our economy is failing. It's time for Canadians to wake up before it's too late. I'll see you on the next report.